I wanted to talk about one of the most important issues that affect us today, and that's jobs. We need jobs both here in Las Vegas and across the country because without jobs, everything else is a band aid on the cake. Or as I say, it's just a real problem not having jobs. Jobs equal revenue, and revenue is what we need. We don't need tax hikes, and we don't need spending cuts. We need jobs. Jobs create revenue. We need to put Americans back to work. And I think what we need to do is create an atmosphere for entrepreneurship. We have a lot of people out of work that would just love to create businesses. Small businesses are the key to our future. They create jobs and just will put the majority of people back to work. It's not large businesses, it's small businesses that create the bulk of jobs. So what we need is a source of funding for these businesses. And I've come up with a way that costs the government nothing to fund small business loans. I guess it was about 2 years ago when we created, actually probably more than that, when we created a stimulus package. And that stimulus package gave $740 million to the SBA, which I thought at the time was ridiculous. This is the entire SBA that's going to fund small businesses, $740 million. And I don't know what your experience has been with the SBA, but I can tell you, over 40 years, I've only known one person that has gotten an SBA loan for business, and that was under the minority privilege. So we need to fund small businesses, and the way to do it, in my opinion, is to create a savings bond. And many of you are probably familiar with the savings bonds of years ago that you used to give for gifts of weddings. We would give savings bonds. Invest in America. They financed the Second World War. They've done tremendous good in this country, but try to buy a savings bond today. Go into a bank and you'll find you can't buy a savings bond. You have to order it in advance, and probably a couple of weeks before you ever see that savings bond. Anyway, my way is to create a class of savings bonds that will be used exclusively to fund small businesses. And those small businesses would borrow based on the number of new employees that they hire. The preliminary number I see is for every $50,000 they could borrow, they have to create one employee. So somebody could create five new jobs and borrow up to $250,000. The loans would be non-dischargeable, meaning in the event of a bankruptcy, those loans would be non-dischargeable. So you better make sure of that business plan before you decide to borrow the money. And the money would be based not on someone's credit, because many of you don't have credit anymore. It has to be based on the merits of the job itself, of the business itself. So, and what we would do is we would use the banking network to administer these loans. So the banks would look at the business plan, decide whether or not it was a viable business, and then the government would provide the money through the SBA and through a line of credit. So you would not be forced to pay on the bulk of the money. You would pay only as you needed that money, and you would create these jobs. And that's what we need. I mean, one of the things right now, I represent almost 1,000 small businesses through Nevada only, which is a Nevada resident agent business. And in that business, I find that there's no access to capital at all. And capital is the key to small business. If you have no capital, you can't create a business, you can't maintain a business. It's not tax cuts. I mean, many of you talk about giving small businesses tax cuts. I've never created a job because I got a tax cut. And it just doesn't happen. You create jobs when you have business. And you have business when you have money. So you need money to create the jobs. So, in my opinion, that's the first step, is to provide the capital for these jobs. I want to thank you, and I look forward to answering any questions that you might have.